Picture this. You're in the most hostile place on Earth. Your two companions are gone. Your food is almost out, and you are over 160 kilometers from the nearest sign of life. What do you do? This isn't a hypothetical nightmare. It was the terrifying reality for Australian geologist and explorer Douglas Mawson. His 1912 Antarctic expedition is one of the most harrowing survival stories ever told. It's a tale of unimaginable hardship, iron will, and a journey back from the absolute brink of death. It all started so promisingly. The Australasian Antarctic expedition, led by Mawson, was a scientific mission. They set up their main base at Cape Denison, a place later dubbed the home of the blizzard for its relentlessly ferocious winds. Their goal was to explore and map a vast, unknown stretch of the Antarctic continent. Mawson, a veteran of Shackleton's earlier Nimrod expedition, was no stranger to the perils of the polar regions. But nothing could have prepared him for what was to come. In the summer of 1912, Mawson led a three-man sledging party, the Far Eastern Party, into the uncharted interior. With him were a British Army lieutenant named Belgrave Ninnis and a Swiss ski champion, Xavier Mertz. They had two sledges packed with supplies and a team of husky dogs, venturing deeper into the white wilderness than anyone had before. For the first month, things went smoothly. They made good progress, charting new coastlines and collecting geological samples. They were filled with the thrill of discovery, pushing the boundaries of the known world. Then, on December 14th, disaster struck. They were crossing a vast glacier field covered in a deceptive layer of snow. Mawson was on his sledge up front, Mertz was behind him, and Ninnis brought up the rear. Mawson heard a faint cry from behind, and when he turned around, he saw the horrifying truth. Ninnis, along with his sledge carrying most of their food, the tent, and the best dogs, had vanished. He had fallen through a snow-covered crevasse, a deep, hidden chasm in the ice. They shouted his name into the abyss, but only silence answered. Peering over the edge, they could see the bodies of two dogs on a ledge far below, but of Ninnis, there was no sign. He was gone, swallowed by the ice. Suddenly, Mawson and Mertz were in a desperate situation. They were nearly 500 kilometers from their base camp, with only 10 days' worth of food for themselves and a handful of starving dogs. The return journey seemed impossible. They were plunged into a state of shock and grief, but they knew that standing still meant certain death. They had to turn back. Their only choice was to begin the long, agonizing trek home. Their survival now depended on the remaining dogs. As their own meager rations dwindled, they were forced to do the unthinkable: kill the weakest dogs one by one to feed themselves and the others. The meat was tough and stringy, but it was calories. It was life. However, unbeknownst to them, they were ingesting dangerously high levels of vitamin A from the dogs' livers. This led to a condition called hypervitaminosis A, slow and agonizing form of poisoning. Xavier Mertz, who was a vegetarian and found eating the dogs particularly repulsive, began to weaken first. He suffered from severe stomach pains, dizziness, and delirium. His skin started peeling off in sheets. Mawson did everything he could to care for his friend, but Mertz's condition deteriorated rapidly. On January 8th, just a month after Ninnis's death, Mertz died in his sleep inside their makeshift tent, leaving Mawson utterly alone. Imagine the crushing weight of that moment. You are the last man standing, over 160 kilometers from safety, in the heart of the Antarctic wasteland. Your body is failing, you're starving, and you are completely, totally alone. Mawson wrote in his diary, "My God, what is to happen to me now?" Many would have given up. Many would have laid down in the snow and waited for the end. But not Douglas Mawson. Something inside him refused to quit. He cut his sledge in half with a small pocket saw to make it lighter, gathered the last pathetic scraps of food, and pushed on. His own body was a wreck. The soles of his feet had completely detached, and he had to tape them back onto his raw flesh each morning. He was racked with pain, his vision blurred, and he suffered from periods of fainting. At one point, he fell into a crevasse himself, saved only by the rope that attached him to his sledge, which thankfully wedged itself in the snow above. He dangled there, exhausted, contemplating letting go. But the thought of his fiancée back home, and the duty he felt to tell the world what had happened, gave him the strength to haul his broken body out of the ice tomb. He stumbled on, a living skeleton, driven by sheer force of will. Finally, after weeks of this solitary hell, he spotted something in the distance. A black speck on the horizon. It was a snow cairn, a mound of snow left by a search party from the base. Inside, he found a bag of food and a note. The note informed him that he was only 33 kilometers from another depot, Aladdin's Cave, and that the ship, the Aurora, had arrived to take them home. Hope surged through him. He was going to make it. He devoured the food and, with renewed strength, pushed on to Aladdin's Cave. But when he finally reached the main base at Cape Denison, he was met with a heart-wrenching sight. He could see the ship, the Aurora, sailing away in the distance. He had missed it by mere hours. After everything he had endured, he was too late. But as fate would have it, a small group of 6 men had volunteered to stay behind to wait for Mawson's party, just in case. When they saw his skeletal figure staggering towards the hut, they couldn't believe their eyes. They nursed him back to health over the long, dark Antarctic winter. Mawson, the sole survivor of the Far Eastern Party, had made it back against all conceivable odds. He had to spend another year in Antarctica before a ship could return for them, but he was alive. Douglas Mawson's story isn't just about survival. It's a profound testament to human endurance, the power of the will to live, and the unbreakable spirit that can shine even in the coldest, darkest places on Earth. He faced the absolute worst the world could throw at him and refused to be broken. What an incredible story, right? It really makes you think about what we're capable of when pushed to our limits. If you found this story as inspiring as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more incredible tales from history. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What part of Mawson's journey amazed you the most? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.